Okay, the last thing I want to go over with you that I went over with you today is a copy constructor, and then we'll take a look again at a static, a class that has static variables or fields as well as static methods, keeping in mind that if you access those fields or methods, you always have to use the name of the class. You always have to use the name of the class. Okay, but here I did want to show you that I have another constructor called the copy constructor, and basically is taking an instance of instance counter, an object that's been created of type instance counter, and then for the most part it copies the values of that object into the new object created. Okay, and again, I'm using the keyword this, but I don't have to. Um, but I did I'm illustrating the fact that this always applies to the current object that you're working with. So again, this is called a copy constructor. So my class is instance counter, and then I'm creating an instance of instance counter um, by passing in an object of instance counter that has already been created, and then assigning to those um, instance variables a string and a number, assigning to that new object what's been passed in from the other one. That is called a copy constructor. Okay, and so what I did here, so right here I have instance counter object 3 equals new instance counter object 2. So I created object 2 here on line 66, and now I'm going to create another instance of instance counter, assign that to the reference variable object 3, but I'll be assigning the same values that exist in object 2, so don't want to print out too much. So here, all right, so again I went over this today, so notice here, so object 2a number was 61, but then when I copied that object and copied it to object 3 for the most part, creating a new object 3, but just copying the contents of object 2, I print out a number again, and it's still 61. And if I wanted to, I'll show you that it is going to have a different location, a pointer to a different memory location, because it's a separate object. That is object 3. So if I go object 3, just print out object 3, and then run that again. So you see. So notice here, right here, the memory location or the pointer is 1D81EB93, and so there I'm printing out, that's line 73. So I'm printing out the reference memory location for that object there. But then after I print out a number for each object, which will be the same, 89, 89, then I print out object 3, and notice it has so it's a separate object, has a different memory location here. All right, so I did want to go over that copy constructor. And then what else did I want to go over? Okay, so here, let me so I stop printing out all of this here. And then the last thing, again, just want to iterate that when you work with static methods or static fields, you must always call the name of the class. Okay, so for example, instance counter, I'm printing out num instances, and that would be the number of objects of instance counter created. So again, you always have to reference the name of the class. Okay. that's about it. That's about it here. All right, so I hope that gives you an overview of the things, static and private and public instance fields and static methods and static variables and the keyword list. And those were the important copy constructors. So those are the important things talked about in chapter 10.